Are house prices shooting up again? In the month of March, we saw the lowest average sale price we've seen in years in our region. But in April, things rallied. So are things trending back up? Well, my name is Jeff Magdalene. I'm a realtor in the Windsor Essex region of Ontario, and this is your April 2026 market update. If you want more content like this or want to give me a follow, all my socials are in the caption below. My email is there as well. So if you have any questions or want to know anything more, feel free to email me after watching this video and I will answer all those emails and get back to you as soon as I can. I want to tell you what's been happening in our market over the last 30 days. In the month of April, we saw 1,333 new listings in our area. Now, this doesn't take into account the amount that have been taken down and relisted, all that kind of stuff, but it says we have 1,333 new listings. That is up 100 from last year at this time. It is up 400 from last month. So there is a lot more on the market in the month of April than there was in March alone. As far as sales go, we sold 437 houses, which is actually down 16 from last year, but up 85 from the month of March. So you're looking at it, we had 400 more listings and about 85 more sales. That just goes to show you that the inventory is still expanding. We are sitting at about 4.1 months of inventory right now. We are still leaning very much towards the buyer's side of a buyer's market, but it depends on the price point that you're looking at. So right now that is expanding because you're at about like a 5-to-1 ratio of listings to sales there. Our average sale price in the month of April was $572,150, which is down about $6,000 from last year at this time, so about 1.1%. But we're up $33,000 from the month of March, so that's about a 6% jump month over month. So our values all of a sudden surging. Is your house all of a sudden worth more? Well, we'd have to take a look at what is selling here because I saw that and I'm like, I don't think houses, from what I'm seeing on the day-to-day, I don't see that houses are all of a sudden being valued more. But what my guess is and what these numbers will show is that the higher price points are what's selling. So we didn't see a lot of that early in the year, but come April, we saw some of the higher price points selling. So let me break that down for you. 43% of all houses sold $1 million and up were sold in the month of April. So nearly half of all the homes that are selling for over $1 million were sold in 1 month. That's going to have an impact on the average sales price. The new build, the HST rule that came into effect in the month, well, it's not into law yet, but just the news of that started getting new bids sold. I haven't seen too many new builds, a couple that are listed under 550, but most are well over that. And so that's gonna have an impact on average sale price. I'm not saying all those $1 million houses are new builds, but some of them definitely will be. So that's gonna have an impact on the average sale price. If you look at the houses sold in the $500,000 range, we were up 70% over the month of March. The $700,000 range, those houses were up 50% in the amount of sales in the month of April over the month of March. Really anything 500 and below was fairly similar. So it just goes to show you that certain price points of the higher, like on the higher end of things, were much more active and a lot more sales in those price points in the month of April. What that tells me is that in the spring, a lot of times what we see are people looking for their new home, not their first home. First-time home buyers tend to buy all year long. People moving to a new home, they tend to peak in spring, and that's what we're seeing in April. I think we'll see that continuing into May and June yet, but we definitely start to see that in April, and that is why we saw those numbers jump, and we're kind of back to where we were last year. Will this hold? Well, coming into the year, a lot of people were a lot of experts were forecasting that we would see a 5 to 7% drop in average sales price across the board, and the month of March, we were there. We were just over 7% actually, and now we're down to like 1%. So I'd say we're fairly even. I think that volatility where we're going to still see drops are going to hit more of the major urban centers, the GTA, that kind of stuff. Windsor, I think, will hold to be more similar to last year than other places. If we're down, I'd say I would bet more towards the 5% than the 7%. That's what I predict, but we'll see how the year plays out. Headlines across the world can change that in a heartbeat. We all know that, especially in Windsor, where a lot of things are tied to manufacturing and a lot of jobs are tied to manufacturing, and there's a lot of risk there in the world with things being threatened to move to the States, or just things being shut down in that area with tariffs and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not saying the industry is going to shut down, but it has an impact on Windsor, and we are hit harder than a lot of different areas. So that will have an impact. But I personally think we will still be similar to where we were at last year. Those are the numbers. That's where things are at. But that shows what a market update always shows you, what has already happened. Where are we going with all this? Well, what I'm seeing in the day-to-day is that the average days on market are starting to creep up a little bit. We are at an average of 31 days for average days on market. The median is at about 16. So that basically means that if you put your house on the market, the ones that are selling in about 2 weeks, which is fairly quickly. But if it doesn't sell in those first 2 weeks, it's going to drag on a little bit more. And 31 days is the average. So that means plenty are selling in longer than that. So you're going to have to require some patience if you're a seller. If you're a buyer, you can have the patience of, hey, if I don't get this one, there's something else out there for me. Again, over 4 months worth of inventory, you have options. So when people start to see that things are sitting longer than a month, especially with sellers, or actually with buyers, they're going to look at and say, well, what's wrong with that house? Now, again, when the average days are 30 days, there isn't necessarily anything wrong with the house. Even if it's 40, 45, it's taking that much longer. The ones that are dialed in, they are renovated, they're beautiful, you don't have to do a thing. Those are the ones that are selling in 2 weeks. So that's the kind of thing. But if you just, it's an average home, may need a thing or two here or there, those might take a little bit longer. But people might wonder, maybe there's something wrong with the house. People might also wonder, maybe there's something wrong with that seller. Maybe they just have completely unrealistic expectations of what their house is worth, and I might have a hard time. So buyers just don't want the conflict. They don't want the complicated part of that. And so what they'll do is they'll just avoid that house. Like they'll go look for something that they see lines up with their budget. The other thing that obviously I mentioned earlier is the HST rebate that came in effect at the beginning of April. Now, again, that's not written into law yet, but it is something that we believe will be in law sooner than later, and obviously is going to have an impact on new builds. I've already sold one as well, very early in April. The first few weeks, I do open houses at new builds all the time, and the first couple weeks of April were firing. It's already seemed to die down a little bit. Maybe people are, again, waiting for it to become law before they sign on the dotted line. But that is going to have an impact on the higher price point of things. It's going to get people moving, because if you're buying a new build, you're going to sell the house you're currently in. The other thing too is that houses that are similar price, so now that you've taken 13% off of a new build, you are going to see that, and I think we're seeing this already, that if a house is worth, let's say a new build is going to cost you now, it only costs you $700,000, and another house that was $700,000 before, people are looking at it, that gap has shrunk between what you get for a new build and what you get for a resale home at $700,000. And so people are like, well, maybe I'll skip getting the resale home and just build new, because for maybe 20, 30 grand more, I get a brand new house, as opposed to buying something that's, $670,000, $680,000, and I've got to do maybe a thing or two too. So this way I get to pick it all out and I get it ready to go. So that might have an impact. We haven't seen a ton of that yet, but I think that's going to have an impact in some neighborhoods. That's definitely something to consider. That's where the market has been. That's where I kind of see things heading. That's where I see things happening on the ground. If you are a seller right now, I can't stress this enough. It is important that you price your house properly. As I mentioned, buyers have options out there. And so they're coming in and they're thinking, okay, if I can't get it at this price, or if I think that house is overpriced, I'm not even going to avoid it. I'm not dealing with the seller that's unreasonable, right? Price will tell them something about you as a seller, And if they think, now buyers could be wrong. Your house could definitely be worth that, but you need to know that going in, that you've priced it appropriately. You're not going to please everybody. There's always going to be somebody that says your house shouldn't cost that much. But if the general consensus is, yeah, that's worth it, then you're doing all right. Some sellers, depending on how quickly you need to sell, are listing a little bit lower than what the comps will say, just to encourage people to get in, and they get that sale price pretty close to expectation. And I've actually seen it turn into bidding wars. But I've also seen bidding wars turn into where I had a client that got a house that they went $1,000 over the asking price. It used to be that you had to go $100,000 over. So just because you're in a bidding war doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get well above ask. The buyers might end up giving you asking price, or you might get multiple offers that are below asking price. So just make sure that that's priced appropriately, and you'll still get people walking through your door and offers on your home. For buyers, what I will say to you is you have the opportunity to be patient here. And so if you do see a house that is overpriced and you think that there's a shot, you don't know the situation the seller is in, shoot your shot. I'm seeing plenty of buyers that are sending me offers that are lowball. I'm seeing plenty of buyers that we're writing offers on houses that are lowball. And yes, the seller is going to stomp their feet and they're going to get all mad and they're going to get frustrated. Sellers, it's not personal. They're just trying to do what's financially best for them in the same way that you want to do what's financially best for you. And so I would say that take the emotion out of it, counter back. They could be just testing the waters. If they're not serious, they're gone anyways. They were never buying it anyways. If they are, they might keep talking with you. So don't take it personally, counter back. But buyers, don't be afraid to shoot your shot, because you never know what the motivation is for selling. Maybe they need to get it sold ASAP. They got a place ready to go, and maybe they're being put on notice. I've seen this a few times. They're being put on notice because somebody else has put an offer in on the same house they got one in on. House to sell conditions are in there with escape clauses. So put that offer in and see what comes back. You might be able to find a deal. And if you don't get it on that one, it may be the next one. There's plenty of inventory. So have patience out there. And again, if you ever have any questions, buyers or sellers, you want to get moving, you want to sell a house, you want to buy your house, feel free to reach out. My email, all my contact information is in the caption. I'm happy to help.